ठीक है. So Aftab, you have started recording, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, guys. So the types of requirements, we have the user requirements, system requirements. Okay, for example, you have the two types of the requirements. So user requirements, statements in natural language plus diagrams of the services the system provides and its operation. System what the, definitely we know the user requirements, what user want. Okay, and that can be definitely in natural language, in questionnaire format, on the paper, whatever the whatever the system requirements, the structured documents and detailed description of the system's functions, services and operational constraints defines what should be implemented, so may be part of the contract between client and contractor. Now what system is going to provide us, what system functionalities should be, what can be the functional requirements of that system, what can be the non-functional requirements, what can be the domain requirements of that particular system. So all these are included into the system requirement. We talk about the constraints, we talk about the non-functional requirements. Okay, so the system क्या सिस्टम कैसे करेगा, क्या चीज होगी, क्या कंस्ट्रेंट्स होंगे उसमें, सिक्योरिटी कैसे होगी, प्राइवेसी कैसे मेंटेन होगी, डॉक्यूमेंट्स कैसे होंगे, इनक्रिप्ट होंगी फाइल्स, यानी इवन एट द लेवल ऑफ द इंफॉर्मेशन. So information security के पे भी, for example, which type of encryption techniques and decryption techniques will be applied on that information shared. So taking an example of the user and system requirements, we have the user requirements, for example, we have the medical healthcare system. So the example of the med system shall generate the monthly management reports showing the cost of drugs prescribed by each clinic that month. So a hospital management system is there. We have the different clinics in that hospital. Monthly reports are by the Medicare, showing the cost of drugs prescribed by each clinic during that particular month. So whatever the drugs demanded, prescribed by the every clinic or the doctor or the physician or the whatever the specialist, and based on that, the whole monthly reports should be generated. What can be the system requirement? For example, say slide number 7, system requirements specification. On the last working day of each month, a summary of the drugs prescribed, their cost, and the prescription shall be generated. The system code for printing after, for example, 17 past 30 minutes, for example, 5:30 baje sham ko on the last working day of the month. But just the last working Friday. So, for example, on every Friday, 5:30 p.m., that should generate the report for the printing. The third point in this can be a report shall be for and shall
Yeah. Hello,
number of the prescriptions, the number of doses even prescribed, and the total cost of the prescribed drugs. So how many, what can be the, what particular drug, what can be the, what is the dose of that particular drug, what is the frequency of that particular drug, कि दिन में कितनी दफा खानी चाहिए वो, एक दफा, दो दफा, तीन दफा, that is the frequency in 24 hours. A report shall be created for each clinic and shall list the individual drugs names, the total number of participants, and the number of doses prescribed, and the total cost of the prescribed drugs. If the drugs are available in different doses units, for example, sometimes you have the drugs available into the doses 10 mg, 20 mg, 1 gram, 1.2 gram, etc. The separate reports shall be created for each dose unit. Then we have the access to the drug cost reports shall be restricted to authorized user is listed on a management access control list. So now we have slide number 8, the user requirements and system requirements. What are the user requirements? We have what the actors, stakeholders in user requirements are the client managers, system end users. So whatever the client means, we have the user requirements, we have the end users, and there are then above end users we have the managers, what we call it the client managers. Then client engineers will be there. For example, if we take an example of this Sakhar IBA, so for example, system end users are the faculty and the students. So client managers are, for example, the competent authority, for what we call it, for example, the whosoever is responsible for such products, or the tendering, or whatever the development. So what we call it, the client managers, means we can say the client managers in case of the Sakhar IBA, who is going to demand, who is going to talk to the developers, or the software house guys, those who are going to develop the software. So that can be for example, we call it the registrar office in case of the university. Then we have the client engineers. So definitely at our side, we have the engineers as well. For example, in case of CMS, in case of ERP, so we have the engineers, ICT department is there. Mr. Zafar and his team will fall in the client engineers. Then we have the contractor managers. So we have the managers at the side of the contractor. And then we have the system architects. So now system architects, definitely the one who is going to design. For example, if I'm the competent authority of any particular university, so I'm going to ask the ICT department to design the system. Okay, कौन सा system आपको चाहिए? For example, we are assuming that ERP system is there. We have in which we have the CMS. So for example, first time anybody told me, for example, we saw that this system in any other university, we said, okay, we should have such type of system. We can contact any development or any software house, any big firm. Okay, by hame Oracle ko, for example. So fortunately, Oracle has such COTS, commercial off-the-shelf systems there. So Oracle is going to provide, Oracle has already built such systems for the universities or organizations. Okay, enterprise resource. So what we have to do is, okay, and then we have to understand what are the system requirements. Whosoever will be there, means we are talking about the readers of different types of the requirements specification. Who will be the stakeholders, who will be reading, who will be editing those requirements, documents, or specifications, or maybe viewing that particular document. We are discussing the stakeholders, the system end users, client engineers, system architects, software developers. These all are the system requirements. System stakeholders, as we have already discussed, any person or organization who is affected by the system in some way, and so who has a legitimate interest. Stakeholders, those who will be involved, those who will be using, those who will be receiving the data, those who will be generating the data, those who will be sharing the data, those who will be creating the backup for the data, all involved are the stakeholders. The stakeholder types are in this such type of systems is the end user, system manager, system owners, external stakeholders. End users, in case of ERP, we have the students, faculty members, system managers, who is handling the ERP, for example, ICT department team, system owners, Sakhar IBA University, external stakeholders, maybe the HEC, maybe your data is shared with other organization, maybe the provincial government, maybe the of universities and boards. Okay, so whosoever can, I mean, the one who is involved in that particular system, but that particular person is not directly involved. So we call it the external stakeholders. And definitely stakeholders, external stakeholders can be at the site of the development. For example, we can say we have developed any part of the system and we can outsource a small portion of the system from any other firm. Means we can sublate that particular functionality of the system which is going to be developed to sublate, or we can have the contract what we have discussed in previous slides. So the external or the internal contracts can be there. So how we are going to deal with that company? The stakeholders in the main care systems, हमारे पास the main care system में कौन से stakeholders होंगे? The patients whose information is recorded in the system. So one stakeholder is patient, doctors who are responsible for assessing and treating the patients. Then we have the nurses who coordinate the consultations with the doctors and administer patients. Medical manage patients. IT staff who are responsible for it. So we have the, please put your systems on mute. So everybody is.
आवाज आपकी कट आ रही कट
Yes, sir. थोड़ी कट हो रही.
अभी सही है आवाज?
Yes, sir.
यस सर अभी सही है
Stakeholders are patients, doctors, nurses, medical receptionists, and IT staff. In case of the hospital management system,
Sir, how can we identify who is external stakeholders and others?
external stakeholder in if we take an example of just a medical system, or okay, we are taking example of ERP, the CMS, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
it's external stakeholder. So external stakeholder can be the at the development side can be the Oracle, the whose product is right. This PeopleSoft. External stakeholder can be your finance department. I mean, not finance, that bank. In case of the automatic attendance system. So in this, you have your system is there, but there is the directly or there is the involvement of directly or indirectly the external persons. The bank is not the property, or the bank is not part of the university, but that bank is receiving the data or sending the data to your
So,
system.
sir,
case
can
of
we
the-
say in Medicare system that IT staff is our external stakeholder?
No. In IT staff, this IT staff is going to help out the end users. It's not external. Yeah, in Medicare, external stakeholders can be the any consultant who is coming from any other hospital. Sometimes we have the, for example, we have the hospital, Sakhar IBA University Hospital. Maybe we have the consultant coming from the Aga Khan Hospital for visits, for checkups. So his or her account will be the temporary, the guest appearance, whatever what we call it. That maybe that is, or maybe the external stakeholder health related सॉफ्टवेयर है हमारे पास. इसमें से जितनी भी, अगर मिसाल के तौर पे गवर्नमेंट कहती है कि भाई ये जितनी भी रिपोर्ट्स आपके पास पैथोलॉजिकल रिपोर्ट्स आए उसकी कॉपी हमें भी भिजवा दें, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ सिंध को भी, ताकि हमें अपनी पब्लिक का पता चले कि who is carrying which disease, or who is safe, or who is healthy, or whatever. So the copy going to the Sindh department, Sindh government. Now Sindh government became the external stakeholder. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Everybody clear? So agile methods and requirements, how to deal with the agile I mean, the requirements. So look at the with respect to the agile. Many agile methods argue that the producing detailed system requirements is a waste of time, as requirements change so quickly. The requirement document is therefore always out of date. Agile methods usually use incremental systems. So you have, as we have discussed in previous chapter, which was dedicated by the for the agile topics. So in agile, what we know is that we do not focus. We are not rigid on the requirements. We are flexible enough to change the requirements to accommodate the changes, and we are the output oriented in agile. We do not rely on the requirement document 100%. I mean, purely we like what we call it, okay, it is the the rigidness, no flexibility, but agile is flexible enough. Agile, the motive of agile is to accommodate the changes, welcome the changes, what the customer want. So this is practical for business systems, but problematic for the systems that require the pre-delivery analysis. Critical systems are the systems developed by the several teams. So we have the slide number 13, functional and non-functional requirements. Okay, guys. So me 5 minutes to bring the bottle of water, and then we will resume the lecture
Yes,
from
sure, sir.
functional requirements. So everybody, this should be connected. You can go for the have the glass of water or tea, cup of tea or whatever, just for 5 minutes. We will be back at 10:20.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
भाई क्लास शुरू हुई?
नहीं।
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीबॉडी।
वालेकुम सलाम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम सर।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
वस्सलाम सर।
From the functional and non-functional requirements, slide number 13, chapter number 4, requirement engineering. Functional requirements, what the system will do, okay? So for example, the statements of the services the system should provide, how the system should react to the particular inputs, how the system should behave in particular situations. Maybe the state what the system should not do, non-functional requirements, constraints on the services or the functions offered by the system, such as timing constraints, constraints on the development process, standards, etc., often apply to the system as a whole rather than the individual features of the services. So the functional requirements में सिस्टम का काम क्या होगा, कौन सी चीजें, फॉर एग्जांपल हॉस्पिटल मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम है तो इनपुट्स, पेशेंट्स रजिस्ट्री, पेशेंट्स dose or the prescriptions management, patient doctors management. So all this should be in functional requirements. Non-functional requirements में हमारे पास कौन सी चीज कितने, फॉर एग्जांपल एक रिक्वेस्ट हमने सिस्टम को दी, कितने टाइम में एग्जीक्यूट होगी. So the execution time falls in the non-functional requirements. Or the other constraints, for example, security related. For example, input is there, data received from the system. What it should be secret, it should be encrypted, it should be in codes. For example, in Cypher, what we have discussed in class, we have the plain text is there, and then that is converted into the Cypher. So the information security is again non-functional requirement. Okay. Then we have the domain requirements. On which domain? For example, Windows पे चलेगा, iOS पे चलेगा, कौन सा ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम होगा, दिस इज द डोमेन रिक्वायरमेंट. कौन से सिस्टम पे वो सिस्टम चलेगा जो 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 के सॉफ्टवेयर बना हुआ है. ओके, सो द फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स क्या काम करेगा, नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स कितने टाइम में वो काम कर सकेगा, द एग्जीक्यूशन टाइम, नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट, एंड किस डोमेन पे चलेगा, कौन सा ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम होगा, किस डिवाइस पे चलेगा. फॉर एग्जांपल उस डेफिनेटली डिवाइस की बात है तो उसकी उसका ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम की बात होगी. सो दैट इज द डोमेन रिक्वायरमेंट. Functional requirements in detail that describe the functionality of the system services. depend on the type of software, expected users, and the types of the system where the software is used. Functional user requirements may be high-level statements of what the system should do. Functional system requirements should describe the system services in detail. So Mentcare system में हमारे पास functional requirements, a user shall be able to search the appointments for the lists for the clinics. System shall generate each day for each clinic a list of patients who are expected to attend the appointments that day. Each staff member using the system shall be uniquely identified by his or her 8-digit employee number. So each staff member should have the user information. I mean, the access information, what we call it, the access control, username and password. So this is the condition, for example, how that particular employee is going to use the system. Requirements imprecision. So the problems arise when the functional requirements are not precisely stated. So maybe we have the functional requirements which are not, incorporated properly. Okay, the ambiguous requirements may be interpreted in different ways by developers and users. For example, any requirement that is not, clear. Okay, any requirement which is vague, so that how that is going to deal with. So definitely कुछ functionalities हमारे पास system में होंगी जो कि ambiguous होंगी, जो कि clear नहीं होंगी at the side of the development, even the stakeholders, whatever. So ऐसी या मे भी किसी requirement को implement करने के लिए हमारे पास जो है हार्डवेयर अवेलेबल नहीं है, हमारे पास टेक्नोलॉजी अवेलेबल नहीं है, हमारे पास अपना प्लेटफॉर्म अवेलेबल नहीं है. So consider the term search in requirement 1. The user intention, search for the patient name across all the appointments in all clinics. So developer interpretation, the search for the patient name in an individual clinic. User chooses the clinic, then the search. Requirements completeness and consistency. So in principle, the requirements should be both complete and consistent, and definitely what you want. The customer should be aware. The customer should have the complete knowledge. Okay, what I want, and all these requirements should be consistent. Should not change. कि अभी कस्टमर ने कहा है कि ये बना के दें, फिर कल कहे कि नहीं इसको चेंज कर दें, फिर परसों कहे कि नहीं ये भी नहीं ये कर दें. So the complete and consistent form. In practice, because of the system and environmental complexity, it is impossible to produce a complete and consistent requirements document. So it's almost impossible that we 100% for all systems, okay, subsystems के लिए बहुत मुश्किल है कि complete and consistent requirements हों. Subsystems की बात है कि हमारे पास एक छोटा सा system है, उसके लिए तो possible है. Maybe we have the large system and for long time. For example, we have the large system for the large organization is going to develop large systems. So in that particular case, maybe could not get complete list of the requirements and okay, in that particular requirement document. Then we have non-functional requirements. So these define the system properties and constraints. For example, the reliability of the system, response time, storage requirements, constraints are input and output device capabilities, system representations, etc. The process requirements may also be specified, mandating a particular ID, programming language, or the development method. So non-functional requirements may be more critical than the functional requirements. If these are not made, the system may be useless. So definitely these are system the non-functional requirements may be more critical than the functional requirements. If these are not made, the system may be useless. How, for example, taking in an example, for example, you are asked to develop the operating system for any desktop PC or mobile phone or the laptop PC, whatever. So laptops are the netbooks. So for example, you are asked to develop the operating system for this. So assuming the operating system is developed properly, it contains the all requirements, but in that system, we have not taken care of the non-functional requirements, means the boot time of that system, that operating system. If suppose any operating system which takes 1 hour to boot, okay, 1 hour to boot the system, definitely वो ऐसे है ना कि आपको कहा जाए कि ये काम करके दिखाएं, ठीक है, इस ये सिस्टम बना के दिखाएं और ये इतने टाइम में चलना चाहिए, और आपने बना दिया कि वो इतने टाइम में चलना चाहिए वाली कंडीशन जो है नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट है. फॉर एग्जांपल ये तो किसी काम का नहीं रहेगा कि लास्ट बुलेट ऑफ द स्लाइड नंबर 19 इट सेज कि नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स may be more critical than the functional requirements. If these are not made, the system may be useless. वाकई यूजलेस होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपको ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बनाने के लिए कहा गया है, आपने बना दिया, सही काम कर रहा है, अगर वो बूट होने में 1 घंटा ले रहा है तो किसी काम का नहीं है वो. Who is going to wait for the 1 hour to boot that particular system? ये नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट है. यानी कि आपको जो प्रिस्क्राइब्ड टाइम है उसमें अगर कोई भी काम नहीं किया गया तो वो किसी काम का नहीं है सिस्टम. और सिस्टम्स तो हमारे पास बहुत हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल बीइंग द सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर, आपको एक छोटे से छोटा सिस्टम भी कहा जाएगा बनाने के लिए या बड़े से बड़ा भी, मगर वो कितने टाइम में वो काम कर रहा है, दैट इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट, एंड दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल इट द एग्जीक्यूशन टाइम, व्हाट वी कॉल इट द स्टोरेज रिक्वायरमेंट्स, व्हाट वी कॉल इट द रिस्पांस टाइम, व्हाट वी कॉल इट द रिलायबिलिटी, व्हाट वी कॉल इट द सिक्योरिटी, privacy. All these are the non-functional, and definitely if one of the non-functional requirement is not properly handled, not properly developed, not properly incorporated into the system, definitely that system is sometimes useless. Even we are assuming all functional requirements are incorporated into that, okay, because of any failure in any of the non-functional requirements may lead to the uselessness of that particular system. Types of the non-functional requirements. So slide number 20. So non-functional requirements are divided into the 3 different categories. One is the product requirements, organizational requirements, and external requirements. So product requirements, we have the what product is going to do, how product is going to execute, how product is going to run, how that particular system is going to run. So we are saying efficiency requirements, dependability requirements, and security requirements. And the fourth thing is a usability requirement. So again we have in efficiency requirement के कितने टाइम में काम होना चाहिए और कितने में हो रहा है. For example, how much the system is efficient, what we call it the remember during the development what we have to take care, what we have to take care is that system should be cost efficient. So system should be developed in that particular range of the cost or the finance. And another thing is how much it's efficient, how much it is going to take the execution time, means कि वो हमारी जो requirement है उसमें वो काम कर रहा है, उसमें execute कर रहा है, तो it's the efficiency. Then Then we have, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes,
Yes,
sir. We can
Yes,
hear you,
sir.
sir.
Okay. So we have the organization. So in organizational requirements, we have the environmental requirements, operational requirements. Hello.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
तो वॉइस नहीं आ रही.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir, आवाज तो आ रही है, sir.
Okay, so the organizational requirements. So in the organizational requirements, we have the environmental requirements, operational requirements, and development requirements. Environmental requirements are what? How the organization is going to work. The people in organization, how they are working. Okay. So, and operational requirements, how the system is going to operate. For example, organization में simple सा example है कि operational requirements में operational requirements की condition है कि every user will have the username and password. So the password is the thing which is going to keep the, which is going to be the secret. Okay, but assuming that nobody is taking care of the password in the organization. So for example, my CMS ID password is known to everybody. So definitely यहाँ पे आप सिस्टम को दोष नहीं देंगे, ऑपरेशन किस तरीके से हो रही है. आप कह सकते हैं कि एटीएम का कार्ड आपके पास हो और उसका पासवर्ड सबके पास हो. आप बाद में कह सकते हैं कि बैंक की गलती है कि मेरे पैसे निकल गए.
No, sir.
नहीं सर.
Isn't it? Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
तो ये
Yes, sir.
operational
Yes, sir.
organizational requirement में है. Then we have the development requirement. Okay, what are the development requirements? So for example, in organization, any developer needs the laptop, any developer needs the internet connectivity, any developer needs the whatever he wants, the needs. Definitely, if organization is not going to provide, or organization is not going to follow the proper system of the development process, so definitely again that system is going to affect or suffer. Then the law in last we have the external requirements. So in the external requirements we have the regulatory requirements, ethical requirements, legislative requirements. So the regulatory requirements, for example, we have the regulatory bodies in any particular country or the international, the global. For example, regulatory bodies, HEC, in case of the universities, regulatory body in case of the finance is the FBR, Federal Board of Revenue, or the State Bank. So the whatever the policies, whatever their systems, maybe the FBR is going to ask any bank to synchronize their system, FBR system, with the bank system. So it is the regulatory requirement and need to be understood, need to be understood very clearly by the development team as well. Ethical requirements, what are the ethics of the system? So for example, healthcare का हम example लेते हैं ethical requirements में. Healthcare में हमारे पास patients होते हैं और doctors होते हैं. अब patient जो इंटरनेशनल पॉलिसी है डेटा से रिलेटेड, पेशेंट्स की डेटा से रिलेटेड, इट सेज कि पेशेंट इज द ओनर ऑफ इट्स डेटा. Okay, if the patient is owner of the data, so nobody is has right to share patient's information with anybody. अब ethical requirements क्या है हेल्थ केयर सिस्टम में कि फॉर एग्जांपल आई एम अ पेशेंट, I have the two doctors. For example, I have the physician, I have the cardiac, the cardiologist or any other doctor. Even the information about the cardiology, about the diabetic, about the cardiac diseases of that patient can be shared with that particular doctor, not all. So the privacy of the data of the patients should be respected. Okay. Then we have the legislative requirements. Is there any legislative hindrance? Is there any legislative requirement? Is there any legislative need of that particular system of the in that particular country? कि आप सिस्टम बनाने जा रहे हैं, क्या वो legislatively, for example, taking example of the नया पाकिस्तान, so you have legislative requirements. कोई भी assembly में bill pass हुआ कि भाई TikTok is not allowed in Pakistan. So TikTok or the content on TikTok related to the exploitation of the politics is not allowed in TikTok. So ऐसा ही कोई legislation pass हुई, legislative requirement सामने आ गई, तो definitely वो ना developer को पता है, sometimes ना के customer को पता है, मगर आपका जब सिस्टम तैयार हो जाएगा पता चलेगा कि नहीं, पाकिस्तान जैसे मुल्क में ऐसा जो है ना सॉफ्टवेयर या ऐसा सिस्टम हम नहीं चला सकते, इट्स बैन. So all these things fall in the external requirements. So in external requirements we know, okay, we have the regulatory requirements, we have the ethical requirements and legislative requirements, and again in legislative requirements we have the other things in this. So for example, we have the safety and security requirements, we have the accounting requirements, all these things. Accounting is very clear, things related to the finance, and the safety and security requirements. Okay, what are the security requirement of that particular information from received from the system? How that information, how that data should be handled. For example, we have the which type of the information security mechanisms are incorporated into the system. As I have already told, the information security, for example, if we talk about the information security, we talk about the cryptographic techniques, we talk about the encryption and decryption, we talk about the plain text and cipher. So for example, which type of the encryption techniques are incorporated into that. For example, we are saying encryption. If we talk about the encryption, then what type of algorithms in encryption are incorporated into that? So for example, we have in well-known algorithms, in this are the techniques, asymmetric techniques are there, symmetric techniques are there. So the hashing algorithms are there, SHA-1, 2. So these are the things incorporated for the information security. For what we talk about asymmetric, then in is asymmetric we have the RSAs there. So then again, how this RSA algorithm, that is Rever, and Edelman, these three researchers introduced that RSA. So that is the encryption and decryption algorithm, that the cryptographic algorithm is there. In this we have the public and private key involvement. So we have the two keys for every user. So every user has the private key to decrypt or to encrypt that, and we have the public key, which is known to everybody. So anyways, all this that falls into the external requirements, and again in the external requirements we have the safety and security requirement.
Sir,
Slide 21, non-functional requirements implementation. Non-functional requirements may affect the overall architecture of a system rather than the individual components. For example, to ensure that the performance requirements are met, maybe have to organize the system to minimize the communication between the components. A single non-functional requirement such as security requirement may generate a number of related functional requirements that define the system services that are required. It may also generate the requirements that restrict the existing requirements. So sometimes to implement the non-functional requirements, we have to change the functional requirements. How? For example, we have the security So if we talk about the security or if we talk about the privacy of the data, so definitely when we are going to implement the security,
Sir,
sometimes we are going to compromise, we are going to work on the functional requirements to make that particular system secure. For example, we have the data received from the healthcare system or the hospital management system. So definitely in how much time that data is provided by the system, and that data should be kept secret. That data should be secure by through different techniques, through different cryptographic algorithms. So to implement this, we need to maybe your one or more than one functional requirements are going to compromise. Maybe हम नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट को इम्प्लीमेंट करने के चक्कर में नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट हमारी सफर कर सकती है sometimes. So this slide number 21, bullet number 2 says non-functional requirements classification. So we have the product requirements, organizational requirements, external requirements. So as we have discussed already in that graph, in that slide number 20. So what it is, the product requirements kaun si hain? The requirements which specify that the delivered product must behave in a particular way. Execution, speed, reliability, etc. The organizational requirements kya hai? Requirements which are consequence of organizational policies and procedures. Process standard used, implementation requirements, etc. The external requirements, the requirements which arise from the factors which are external to the system and its development process. Interoperability requirements, legislative requirements,
Sir,
regulatory requirements, ethical requirements, safety, security requirements, accounting requirements. G.
sir, organizational requirements में जो operational requirement थी उसका sir
Sorry?
please extend कर दें.
आपकी आवाज कम आ रही, क्या कह रहे हैं आप?
Sir, operational requirement को explain कर दें.
हेलो
Sir, आवाज आ रही है?
जी जी जी.
Sir, operational requirement को explain कर दें.
ऑपरेशनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स.
Yes sir.
देखें, मैं आपको कह रहा हूं कि फेसबुक है, फेसबुक की एप्लीकेशन बन गई, सही है?
Yes sir.
तो फेसबुक की ऑपरेशनल रिक्वायरमेंट ये है कि यूजर नेम एंड पासवर्ड को मेंटेन करना चाहिए. ठीक है?
Yes sir.
अगर आप यूजर नेम एंड पासवर्ड सबको बताते हैं, तो क्या सिक्योरिटी की गलती फेसबुक की है या आपकी है?
हमारी sir.
So such type of things fall into the operational requirements.
Okay,
How
sir.
you operate that particular system. ये तो ऑपरेशन एंड यूजर्स की साइड पे. अब डेवलपमेंट साइड पे आ जाते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल आप कोई सिस्टम या आईडी या प्लेटफॉर्म यूज कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें भी अगेन हमारे पास एक्सेस प्रिविलेजेस हैं, प्राइवेसी है. अगर आपका जो काम है उसको इंश्योर करने के लिए हम डेफिनेटली हमारे पास एक मैकेनिज्म है कि आप जो है ना उस सिस्टम में लॉग इन होने के लिए ये इंफॉर्मेशन है. अगर आप उसकी रेस्पेक्ट नहीं करेंगे, उसका ख्याल नहीं रखेंगे, वो आपका सब कुछ ओपन होगा, सब देख सकते हैं, सब यूज कर सकते हैं, तो डेफिनेटली आपका जो काम है वो खराब भी हो सकता है, वो चेंज भी हो सकता है, उसमें मतलब कि प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती हैं. वो किस तरीके से आप चला रहे हैं. अब लैपटॉप है उसका जो पासवर्ड है कि सबके पास हो, या जो है आई गिव द एग्जांपल ऑफ द एटीएम कार्ड आपको दिया गया है, उसका पासवर्ड है. बैंक ने कहा है कि इस पासवर्ड को सेव करना है, सिक्योर करना है, प्राइवेट रखना है, आपके हद तक हो, किसी और को नहीं बताएं. मगर ऑपरेशनल आप चलाने का जो आपका तरीका है कि वो कार्ड आपका कोई भी यूज कर सकता है, किसी को भी सीआर साहब कहते हैं कि भाई जाओ हसनैन ये लो कार्ड, ये है पासवर्ड, आप जो है ना पैसे निकाल के ले आना। तो आपका कार्ड जो है ना एटीएम कार्ड हॉस्टल में पड़ा रहे, कमरे में पड़ा रहे, ओपन पड़ा रहे, कोई भी उठा सकता है, पासवर्ड को सबको पता हो, फिर आपके अगर पैसे निकल जाएं आपको पता ना चले, और फिर आप क्या बैंक को दोष देंगे?
नहीं।
जी आफ्ताब, एनी क्वेश्चन?
यस सर, इसमें सर एक्सटर्नल रिक्वायरमेंट्स में हमारे पास रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स और लेजिस्लेटिव रिक्वायरमेंट्स में क्या डिफरेंस है, ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा सर।
लेजिस्लेटिव जो है वो कानून बनते हैं, बनने के बाद रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट के पास आते हैं। अब लेजिस्लेटिव क्या है कि फॉर एग्जांपल आपका लेजिस्लेशन पास हुआ कि ये फलां जो है इंफॉर्मेशन जो है फेसबुक की जो डेटा आ रही है, ठीक है, वो जो है फेसबुक पे इस किस्म की डेटा नहीं आए। लेजिस्लेशन फॉर एग्जांपल लेजिस्लेशन पास हुई कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर को गाली नहीं दे सकते सोशल मीडिया पे, ठीक है।
यस सर।
अब रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट में इन गालियों से रिलेटेड एल्गोरिथम बनेगा। जो लोग गाली से रिलेटेड अल्फाज यूज करेंगे रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट में, वो एल्गोरिथम डिटेक्ट कर लेगा कि अच्छा फलां ने अब्यूसिव लैंग्वेज यूज की है, वो डिटेक्ट करेगा। तो ये इंटरलिंक्ड है, वहां पे बनती हैं और वहां पे उनको इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए, जैसे कानून की बात है, अब कानून बनता है लेजिस्लेशन में, उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करवाती है पुलिस।
यस
ठीक है,
सर।
एक तरफ बनाने वाले दूसरे हैं, उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करवाने वाले। Got it?
यस सर। यस
जी,
सर।
आगे चलें।
यस सर, कंटिन्यू।
आपका हाथ ऊपर है, अभी तो नीचे कर दें। Okay, so so the product requirements, those product organizational external, we are clear with this. So the examples of non-functional requirements in the Medcare system, slide number 23. The product requirements, the Medcare system shall be available to all clinics during the normal working hours from Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 5:30 p.m. Downtown within normal working hours shall not exceed 5 seconds in any one day. So now see this, this is the product requirements. भाई किस टाइम चलेगा, कितने बजे चलेगा, किस टाइम से लेके किस टाइम तक चलेगा, उसमें हिंड्रेंसेस, प्रॉब्लम्स, डाउनटाउन टाइम ज्यादा हम इतने मिनट्स तक अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं या सेकंड्स तक अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं इन अ डे। सो दिस इज expectations from the product. Now we have the organizational requirements. So users of the Medcare system shall authenticate themselves using their health authority identity card, organizational requirement. So organization ने कहा कि भाई जो भी ये system यूज करेगा, जिसके पास भी authority identity card होगा, उसमें ही यूजर नेम एंड पासवर्ड होगा या whatever the ID होगी, employee ID, वो ही इसको यूज कर सकेंगे। अब ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है, ये उस हॉस्पिटल की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है, कॉम्पिटेंट अथॉरिटी, या हॉस्पिटल कैसे चल रही है, या हॉस्पिटल ने जो रूल्स बनाए इस सिस्टम को यूज करने के लिए, जो भी कंडीशंस हैं वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स में आती हैं। उसके बाद हमारे पास एक्सटर्नल रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं। The system shall implement the patient privacy provisions as set out in whatever we have the privacy laws, international privacy laws, or international telecommunication, telemedicine laws. In that we have the external requirements. International organizations say कि एक तो ये हो गया कि system shall implement patient privacy provisions. अब प्राइवेसी में क्या है कि एक डॉक्टर, एक पेशेंट के एक से ज्यादा डॉक्टर्स हैं, तो जितने वो ज्यादा डॉक्टर्स हैं वो आपस में भी उस पेशेंट की किसी भी डिजीज के बारे में एक दूसरे से इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर नहीं कर सकते without the permission of the patient, because the patient is himself owner of the data as per the privacy laws. Like you have the 2006 privacy law, telemedicine, or the healthcare related law, or the rules कि पेशेंट इज द ओनर ऑफ द डेटा. एक डॉक्टर उसी पेशेंट के डॉक्टर, एक से ज्यादा डॉक्टर्स हैं, डिजीजेज हैं, तो वो एक से ज्यादा डॉक्टर्स उसी पेशेंट की इंफॉर्मेशन इवन एक दूसरे से शेयर नहीं कर सकते विदाउट द परमिशन ऑफ द पेशेंट. सो दिस इज द एक्सटर्नल रिक्वायरमेंट. गॉट इट? समझ आया?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
So the goals and requirements, non-functional requirements may be difficult to state the precisely, and imprecise requirements may be difficult to verify. So what it is, non-functional requirements are very difficult to understand. हमें sometimes आपको पता चलेगा कि इस सिस्टम में फॉर एग्जांपल CMS है, आप CMS पे जो कुछ भी डेटा इनपुट कर रहे हैं तो आपको पता है ये एनक्रिप्ट हो रही है, आपको नहीं पता चल रहा ना. एंड यूजर्स को तो नहीं पता है व्हाट इज द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ सिक्योरिंग द डेटा, व्हिच टाइप ऑफ एन्क्रिप्शन एल्गोरिथम इज अप्लाइड ऑन दैट डेटा, इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी के लिए. इजंट इट?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
सही बात है.
जी,
ये सर सही बात है.
a general intention of the user such as the ease of use, verifiable non-functional requirements, a statement using some measure that can be objectively tested. जाहिर सी बात है कि नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स को वेरीफाई कैसे करना है. फॉर एग्जांपल हम एग्जांपल लेते हैं, हमारे पास एग्जीक्यूशन टाइम है. एग्जीक्यूशन टाइम इज अ नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स. ओके, सो इसमें हमें पता है कि एग्जीक्यूशन टाइम कितने ले रहा है, कितने सेकंड्स में एग्जीक्यूट हो रही है एप्लीकेशन. या हम एग्जांपल लेते हैं कि बूट टाइम ऑफ द ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम and how much time the operating system is going to boot. The system is going to boot. So definitely whatever the time taken by the system is that time is tested. Okay, so in this way the non-functional requirement, ये तो execution है, easy है. How you are going to test the security? So definitely, and how many minutes or how many seconds that plain text is converted into the cipher, and vice versa. Time taken to convert all these, vice versa. So goals are helpful to developers as they convey the intentions of the system users. Usability requirements. So the system should be easy to use by medical staff and should be organized in such a way that user errors are minimized. So definitely हमारे पास यूजेबिलिटी रिक्वायरमेंट, हम वही चाहते हैं कि जिनके लिए हम सिस्टम बना रहे हैं वो आसानी से इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, इसका GUI बहुत आसान हो, उसकी मतलब कि एंड यूजर कैन नॉट फील हेक्टिक, कि बहुत मुसीबत ना बन जाए कि ये कैसे चलाते हैं, बहुत चलाना मुश्किल है. The medical staff should be able to use all the system functions after 4 hours of a training. After this training, the average number of errors made by experienced users shall not exceed 2 per hour of the system use. Testable non-functional requirement. तो आपने जाहिर सी बात है कि अब जब भी आप सिस्टम डिप्लॉय करते हैं कि the evolution period, what we call it the maintenance and the training. So you are going to train that end users. हम अगर LMS की बात करते हैं, CMS की बात करते हैं, हमारे पास अक्सर IBA में फैकल्टी मेंबर्स के लिए भी ट्रेनिंग्स होती हैं. So after trainings, the well trained end users अगर गलतियां कर भी रहे हैं तो वो पर आवर 2 ना एक्सीड करें, समझ लें कि ये बहुत अच्छे तरीके से टेस्टेड है, the testable non-functional requirement. Then we have the metrics for the specifying non-functional requirements. So what are the metrics? What are the criteria? What are the factors need to be tested in non-functional requirements? So definitely non-functional requirements deal with the speed, size, ease of use, reliability, robustness, portability. So speed. So what it is, the process transactions per second, user event response time, screen refresh time, size, megabytes, number of ROM chips in case of the hardwares, ease of use, training time, number of help frames, reliability, mean time to failure, probability of unavailability, rate of failure occurrences, availability, robustness, the time to restart after failure, percentage of events causing the failure, probability of data corruption on failure, portability, the percentage of target and dependent statements, number of target systems. So how that system is going to be, going to work with other systems. So these are the metrics for specifying the non-functional requirements. So these are the criteria. These are the points need to be looked into the system. So these are the 6 points, what we call the metrics to measure the non-functional requirements of any system. Then we have the requirements engineering processes. So there are different processes in the requirement engineering. The process used for the requirement engineering vary widely depending on the application domain, the people involved and the organizations developing the requirements. However, there are a number of generic activities common to all processes. So these are the generic activities for all the processes. We have the requirement elicitation, requirements analysis, requirement validation, requirements management. All these are the 4 things need to be understood. In practice, requirement engineering is an iterative activity in which these processes are interleaved. So definitely, if we are at the elicitation, we can move towards the analysis. If we are at the analysis, we can move towards the validation. If we are at the validation, we can move towards the elicitation as well. So all these 4 steps are interleaved. We can leave at any time. We can go back to the previous step, or we can move towards the forward the next step. So this is called the interleaved. Spiral view of the requirements engineering process. So what we call it, the spiral model is this. So if we look at this, it's like the spiral. It's like the spring. In other words, we can say. So this activity simply it starts. For example, when it is going to start, so we call it the business requirement specification is the first step. Then feasibility study is there. Then user requirement elicitation is there. Then user requirements specification, the next phase is there. Then after the completion of the user requirement specification, we are going towards the prototyping of the system as we have already studied. After the prototyping, definitely so you have the different things here in this. So you have the division of this whole circle into the 3 quadrants. Okay. So one is the requirement elicitation. The second is the requirement specification. The third is the requirement validation. And definitely all these are incorporated. We call it the requirement document. So we have elicitation. Definitely next slide we are going to understand. We are going in depth of this. The user requirements elicitation. We have we have this elicitation is the understanding of the requirements. You are going to request that, for example, if you're saying, I'm saying, okay, point of sale software बना के दिखाएं, या KFC के पास जो point of sale है वो ऐसा मुझे भी चाहिए. So customer is a king without crown, what we call it. In software engineering, we say, okay, you don't want to lose that customer. Okay. So definitely, if you don't want to lose the customer, you want the understanding of his requirements. So what is the mechanism to understand those requirements or the confusions is the elicitation. Okay. Then we have this is the requirement elicitation. If we are going towards the requirement specification, the business requirement specification, user requirement specification, system requirement specification and modeling. Then in third quadrant, we have finally the validation of the requirements. So now we are assuming the system, the requirement elicitation is done, requirement analysis is done, requirement is validation. So now at this stage, you have the validation of that requirement. You are going to validate that. Now you have understood. Okay, assuming we have understood the requirements of a customer, what customer wants, which type of system we are going to develop. So now you are going to validate. So in validation, what you are going to do? So you have that based on this, as we have already studied. Okay, we can create the prototype for this. Okay, maybe we are going to review that complete requirement document and then validate it. So a spiral model says this. Okay, so now we are going towards the requirement elicitation. Slide number 30. So guys, I think this is how much time is there? 11. So guys, we can go for the 10 to 15 minutes break. We can resume our class from slide number 30, requirement elicitation, after 15 minutes.
Okay, sir. Sir, कब तक चलेगी क्लास?
की क्लास
सर आपकी आवाज कट रही है.
टाइमिंग्स वही टाइमिंग्स साढ़े 12.
सर फिर आधा घंटा ब्रेक करें सर, रोटी तो खा लें सर.
वो भाई रोटी खाते हैं क्या?
सर बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम सर शुरू करें.
हेलो.
Yes, sir.
Aftab put this on
Yes, sir.
record. So it's already right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, guys. So we are going to resume slide number 30, requirements elicitation. Now let's look. What is this? So requirements elicitation analysis is a technique sometimes called the requirements elicitation or requirements discovery. Involves the technical staff working with the customers to find out about the application domain, the services that the system should provide, and the system's operation constraints. They involve end users, managers, engineers involved in maintenance, domain experts, trade unions, etc. These are called the stakeholders of the system. Requirements elicitation, software engineers work with the range of system stakeholders to find out about the application domain, services that the system should provide, the requirements, system performance, required system performance, hardware constraints, and other systems. So stages in this requirements elicitation techniques are the requirements discovery, requirements classification and organization, requirements prioritization and negotiation, requirements specification. Problems of requirements elicitation. Stakeholders don't know what they really want. Stakeholders express requirements in their own terms. Different stakeholders may have conflicting requirements. Organizational and political factors may influence the system requirements. The requirements change during the analysis process. New stakeholders may emerge and the business requirement environment may change. The stakeholders don't know what they really want. So I have given so many times the example, the stakeholders mostly are not technically sound. Okay, they are going to say, okay, हमें point of sale चाहिए जो के फलां दुकान पे पड़ा हुआ है, फलां KFC के पास जो पड़ा हुआ है हमें वो बना के दिखाएं. Means they are not specifying the exact requirements. They don't know what they want. They are just giving you example. हाँ भाई हमें ऐसी चीज बना के दिखाएं. So definitely requirement specification में तो हमारे पास काफी चीजें हैं कि आप written में दे सकते हैं, आप verbally बता सकते हैं, आप questionnaires के through दे सकते हैं, आप interviews में दे सकते हैं. So anyways, then the second point in this is the stakeholders express requirements in their own terms. In their own terms वही है कि वो in their own language, in their own terms, in their own tone, in their own way. So the different stakeholders may have conflicting requirements. So sometimes maybe the two requirements are not same. For example, maybe जो दो requirements आपस में technically merge ना हो सके. For example, आपको अगर customer कहता है कि मेरा जो system है efficient हो और secure भी हो, so अब जाहिर सी बात है कि if we focus on the efficiency of the system, definitely there will be the stage to compromise on the security. If suppose we are making the security so much strong, definitely the efficiency will compromise. If we are increasing the efficiency of the system, definitely the security may compromise, because we know that these are the two things we need to trade off between. We can find the way out to trade off. So then we have the different stakeholders, we have conflicting requirements. It's gone. The organizational and political factors may influence the system requirements. Depending on the country, depending on the state, depending on the area, depending on the organization, the political and organizational factors may influence the system. For example, you know the political factors are organizationals. For example, there is a system, solid waste management system of Sakhar, requested or tendered by the district management government. Suppose the current DC of the Sakhar is the customer who asks you the smart solid waste management system. So he provided you the requirements. Maybe after some time, that management has changed, and definitely this change in political system and management, and then that the district management, change in district management, or for example, that particular deputy commissioner is transferred. So who is going to provide you the specifications? The previous deputy commissioner of Sakhar was interested and he provided you. What about, for example, its completion time is 2 years. And after 6 months, that particular guy, that customer has changed. Definitely, there will be the stage your system is going to delay. Maybe other things are going to influence. Okay. Then the requirements change during the analysis process. The new stakeholders may emerge and the business environment may change. For example, in how the new stakeholders may emerge. For example, in case of business dynamics, for example, business environment may change. Taking an example of Pakistani system for e-commerce or whatever the business system or the environment has changed. For example, in Naya Pakistan, the current government has implemented the tax should be included when the customer is going to pay. For example, if I'm going to buy anything, previously the tax or the value-added tax or the sales tax was not included into the bill. But now that is included into the bill, and even the FBR system is interconnected with that particular system. So how, see this, how the new stakeholders means the FBR is included into the system, and business dynamics has changed because business, the government has the policy, has introduced the new policy to incorporate that particular text into the bill. So as I used to give the example, for example, आप कोई भी चीज खरीद करने जा रहे हैं, आपको नजर आ रहा है कि हाँ ये 2500 की है, जब आप बाय करने जाते हैं तो आप 2800 देते हैं. They are going to tell you that the tax was excluding from that price. When you are going to pay, the tax is included and that is separated from this, and definitely that is sent to the FBR account or whatever that particular taxing department. The requirements elicitation and analysis process में हमारे पास requirements discovery है, requirements classification and organization है, requirements prioritization and negotiation and requirements specification है. First step is to discover the requirements. Second is the classify those requirements what you have discovered and organize those requirements based on the whatever the need. The third thing is you have to prioritize the requirements. Which requirement should be implemented at the first, top, at the second, third, fourth. So the priority is set. And there should be the negotiation on requirement. For example, any customer who wants you to implement this requirement. For example, I'm the customer, you're a software engineer. So I'm saying, okay, you should provide me the automatic attendance system, smart attendance system with face recognition. Okay. So for example, you are that firm who is going to develop my software or the system. So you can negotiate with me. You can say, these face recognition devices are not available in Pakistan. We cannot provide these hardware devices. So this is the negotiation. Okay. Then finally, after all these three steps, we have the final document of that particular portion, what we call it, the requirement specification. Let's check the activities, process activities in this. Requirement discovery kya hai? Interacting with the stakeholders to discover their requirements. Domain requirements are also discovered at this stage. Requirements classification and organization groups related requirements and organizes them into the coherent clusters. Prioritization and negotiation. Prioritizing the requirements and resolving the requirements conflicts. As I told कि negotiation, कि आपके पास कोई आप नहीं implement कर सकते तो आप option देते हैं customer को कि नहीं ये नहीं हो सकता, ये hardware available नहीं है, ये requirement हम implement नहीं कर सकते, इसमें सिक्योरिटी हम इंप्लीमेंट नहीं कर सकते. इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी की बात कर रहा हूँ. इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी डेफिनेटली व्हाट इट इज के इट इज आई मीन it deals with the cryptographic algorithms, assuming encryption and decryption is there, and definitely the execution time will affect. So आप कस्टमर सर वो अगर हम इसमें cryptographic algorithms implement करेंगे तो definitely हमारा सिस्टम स्लो हो जाएगा. तो कस्टमर कहता नहीं स्लो ना हो. देन व्हाट इट इज के हाँ ठीक है, फिर आप इंफॉर्मेशन को एनक्रिप्ट नहीं करें. सो व्हाट इट इज के इट इज द नेगोशिएशन. सो prioritization and negotiation. You set the priorities, which requirement is going to be implemented at first, at second, third, fourth, and whatever the requirement provided by the customer is not going to be fulfilled. So you have the chance, you have the option to negotiate, to talk to the customer. Requirements specification. The requirements are documented and put into the next round of the spiral. So it is the specification. Finally, all these three steps, the fourth is the final document that we call it the requirement specification. Requirements discovery, the process of gathering the information about the required and existing system and distilling the user and system requirements from this information. Interaction is with the system stakeholders, from managers to external regulators. Systems normally have range of stakeholders. Definitely we know that. So from all these stakeholders, we are going to discover the requirements, what we call it the requirements discovery. Again, requirement discovery में हमारे पास और भी techniques भी हैं. How you're going to extract the requirements. What are the procedures of extracting the requirements? For example, you're saying okay, we can extract through the verbal communication, the interviews, the one of the ways. The second way is that you provide the document to fill, the form format, formula. Or maybe you have the questionnaire format to get the requirements. Maybe you have the mathematical equations to get the requirements. So in this way, we are going to discover the requirements. And another thing is the interviewing. Formal or informal interviews with the stakeholders are part of the most requirement engineering processes. Types of interview: closed interviews based on the predetermined list of the questions. Open interviews where the various issues are explored with the stakeholders. So we have the closed interview and open interview. Closed interview is what? If you provide questions to the that particular interviewee, okay? कि ये questions हैं, इसके base पे हम आपसे पूछेंगे. The open interviews, so that is open. So wherever you have the confusion, you can ask the question. In closed, we provide the list of the questions. Effective interviewing. Be open-minded, avoid preconceived ideas about the requirements, are willing to listen to the stakeholders. Prompt the interviewee to get the discussions going using a springboard question, a requirement proposal, or by working together on a prototype system. Do not judge yourself. Listen to the stakeholder, listen to the customer. Do not predict your answer. Okay, so you have to listen properly to the customer, what customer wants. This is the effective interview. Interviews in practice. The normally a mixed, closed, and open-ended interviews are there. Interviewing is there. The interviews are good for getting an overall understanding of what stakeholders do and how they might interact with the system. Interviewers need to be open-minded without preconceived ideas of what the system should do. So this is the preconceived ideas. Do not judge yourself. Okay, listen to the stakeholder, what he wants. You need to prompt the user to talk about the system by suggesting requirements rather than simply asking them what they want. So this is clear. Problems with interviews. Application specialists may use language to describe their work that isn't easy for a requirements engineer to understand. So interviews are not good for understanding domain requirements. The requirements engineers cannot understand a specific domain terminology. Some domain knowledge is so familiar that the people find it hard to articulate or think that isn't worth articulating. So definitely customer is not aware of the domain. Customer को नहीं पता कि जो system बनने जा रहा है वो किस प्लेटफॉर्म पे चलेगा, किस ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम पे चलेगा, वो ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम कैसे चलता है, उसमें एसोसिएटेड सब सिस्टम्स कौन से हैं. Customer is layman. Customer is not technically sound. I think, guys, we stop here. So the next topic is the ethnography. So it's too much now. Go through these slides. And if you have any questions, we'll definitely discuss in next class. So I think we stop here at slide 40, right?
Yes, sir.
Ethnography.
Yes, sir.
Ethnography. Next class में ये chapter इंशाल्लाह जाएगा. So if you have any questions, we have the open group on WhatsApp, and you can, if you want, we can have
क्लास टाइमिंग यही होगी 9:30 से।
जी बेटा,
Excuse me.
एनी क्वेश्चन?
सर आवाज नहीं आ रही आपकी।
Tika, any question? Ikra, raise the hand.
Yes, sir.
Get if I trying, please change your name at the place.
Can you hear me, sir?
जी Ikra, आपको क्वेश्चन है, कंफ्यूजन है? इकरा बिस्मा।
Yes, sir. अभी जो हमने इंटरव्यूअर से पढ़ा था या फिर कोई और बंदा होगा मतलब जो इंटरव्यू करेंगे?
सॉरी,
जी सर।
हेलो जी इकरा।
हेलो।
जी जी, क्या कहा आपने?
कैन यू हियर मी?
श्योर, आई एम लिसनिंग यू।
सर अभी जो हमने इंटरव्यूअर पढ़ा था अभी, तो सर इसमें डेवलपर होगा या फिर स्टेक होल्डर होगा या फिर कस्टमर खुद ही मतलब कुछ करके दे, मतलब इंटरव्यूअर कौन होगा सर?
इंटरव्यू करने वाला तो डेवलपमेंट साइड पे होगा, ठीक है। वो कस्टमर को बताएगा कि हम इस
Yes.
बारे में, आप जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं वो क्लियर नहीं है, इसीलिए तो वो इंटरव्यू करना चाहता है।
तो सर ये डेवलपर साइड से होगा या फिर स्टेक होल्डर की तरफ से होंगे?
डेवलपर साइड पे होगा डेफिनेटली। रिक्वायरमेंट्स जो लेता है वो डेवलपमेंट साइड पे ही होंगे ना। ये स्पेसिफिकेशन, रिक्वायरमेंट स्पेसिफिकेशन और रिक्वायरमेंट इंजीनियरिंग इज एट द साइड ऑफ द डेवलपमेंट, और डेफिनेटली उसको कंफ्यूजन होगी तो वो फिर जो है ना इंटरव्यू करेगा कस्टमर से कि मुझे कुछ चीजों में कंफ्यूजन है, काइंडली आप मुझे टाइम दें।
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू।
एनी क्वेश्चन गाइस?
सर टाइमिंग यही होगी आगे से भी?
देखें, मोटिव ऑफ दिस क्लास इज योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, राइट? अगर आप को इजी लग रहा है ये टाइम, तो फॉर मी आई एम अवेलेबल इवन एट द 8 AM. So maximum participation is needed. I think this is the suitable time, 9:30.
सर अगर 10 पे कर दें, 10 AM?
No problem, no problem. Suggest discuss करें इस ग्रुप में, अगर maximum students 10 बजे आते हैं तो we will start at 10.
और सर उन लोगों का क्या जिनको इंटरनेट इशू है सर? फॉर एग्जांपल मेरे यहाँ कभी कभार इंटरनेट इशू हो जाता है सर।
इसीलिए तो हम रिकॉर्ड कर रहे हैं। आप महीने के
सर वो अटेंडेंस वगैरह का भी इशू होता है ना सर?
नहीं, अटेंडेंस जो आएगा उसकी लगेगी, वो होंगे अटेंडेंस। 3 घंटे में एक दफा तो कनेक्ट होंगे ना आप।
सर अभी मेरा आपने नाम लिया था लेकिन उस टाइम इशू हो रहा था अटेंडेंस का।
Issue, we know that if you are connected, तो definitely हम देखें बेटा, be honest.
यस सर।
जो है